You mentioned jazz and the heart. So one of the beautiful things about jazz, and I went to watch a jazz improvisation on Saturday. So jazz is very good because it's not like when I say a regular beat. In Indian music, we have odd beats of music. So it may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Da, 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 da. So
Right.
what I noticed about the jazz improvisation, it's completely freestyle. So it's like a form of meditation. So when you go into a form of meditation, that may be movement, it may be singing, it may be chanting, it may be this jazz improvisation. You're able to come from a place more of the heart center, because the heart and brain are then connecting in rhythm. Now, we want to be in our heart and we want to come from a place of love, Rick, as you started, but most of us are going with our heads. So you mentioned before, everything in the world is all turmoil, death, disease, war, poverty, violence. They're all a product of leading with the head. But when you lead with the heart, you have endless opportunities. And the way you lead with the heart is to discover more right brain things, which is like jazz. It can be DJing, it can be chanting, it can be art like behind me. There are many ways for different people. So as you've said, there is no right or wrong. It's what works for you. And having a mutual ground can actually connect people. So we may be on the other sides of the world, we may be opposite religions, but things like jazz can bring people together and finding true love for the self. You cannot love another till you love yourself. So when you want to heal the world, you start by healing yourself, and then the ripple effect spreads out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jazz for Peace podcast, where the final solution is love. And we're here today with more love for you. We've got Nisha Srivastava. Tell us, Nisha, is that it? Srivastava.
It is.
Folks, you're going to get something for your aura here, your karma. There's a lot going on with Nisha. She has an interesting background. She's actually in the UK now, but she has an Indian. When you have an Indian thing, now you're opening up a lot. Because I've been to the south of India and it was magical. And Nisha is transforming wellness. And it's an interesting holistic journey that she has. It's through Pilates, yoga, and then the beyond. And that's the part we want to talk about, you know, how these people, because I've seen them do it. What do you call those guys?
Yes, like the guru, the sad gurus.
Those guys mix them up and then they come up with something completely new. And I studied with one and I use a lot of the Tai Chi.
Yes.
I love that stuff. And the meditation. I really picked up the Tai Chi. I mean, I know the moves but the Tai Chi and the meditation, I took that all the way through life. Meditating in yoga position, and I transfer Tai Chi to music. And I was telling Nisha off camera because she has an interesting quote she's going to tell you about. And I was telling her how it relates to me, because I just happen to notice that people are defined by their actions, and what you do, you know, in your private life, it defines you. Do the right thing so you can get into people's way instead of being someone who can't get out of your own way. And with that, we just want to say welcome to the Jazz for Peace podcast, Nisha.
Thank you for inviting me this evening, Rick.
So tell us about how you got from, you know, certification, studied. You're obviously very well studied. How you get from there, because anybody can study and get a doctorate in this, a doctorate in that, but it's what you do to transform who you've become. And tell us how you've gotten from there to who you now are, which is, you know, the uniqueness of you and what you bring, you know, the game that you bring.
Well, knowledge isn't power, Rick. It's applied knowledge. I'm going to say that again. Knowledge isn't power. It's applied knowledge. So we all have so much information. We have so much knowledge. We all know what we should be doing, but very few of us apply it, because it's easier to stay in old habits than it is to change.
So well said. So well, and people just, you know, you really have to dedicate yourself if you want to make a change. That has to be your focus.
It does, Rick. And like you were saying, my background is very physical through dance, through acting, through Bollywood, through yoga, Pilates. Those are the physical attributes of the body. But with those physical attributes, if you let the mind-body connection happen, there is a mental psyche side of it. And the mental psyche side of all those movements leads you on to other things, which is your subconscious and conscious mind. So as I'm speaking to you today, I'm probably actually coming from my subconscious, which is my 95% behavior. It's my mannerisms, the way I interact with you. I'm probably used to doing this every day, but real change happens when we can access that forebrain, the pineal gland, and we can really get excited and really wake up this prefrontal cortex, which you see in many meditators when they are assessed, and that's where the change happens. So we're not coming from the hindbrain, we access here, we make that excited, and that's where we look beyond the physical attributes in life, because everything in life is always selling and doing, but we need to really think about being and accessing our true wisdom, because the body really holds wisdom. It actually holds the power to heal, but we can become so indebted in our habits, our emotions, our stories, our feelings, that we get stuck in the past, which is your depression. We're anxious about the future instead of being in the present moment.
That's fascinating, because I notice that sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I'm like, oh my God, do I really have to wake up? Can I just go back to sleep? And I don't know if that's a whole bunch of subliminal messages that came in while I was sleeping, or what's bringing that burdensome. Do you have any idea?
Well, Rick, yes, we all have a circadian rhythm. So as a general rule, when I'm assessing clients, and a lot of chronic pain clients come to me with things like fibromyalgia, chronic lower back pain, neck pain, all sorts of different things, I always assess the circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is our natural sleep cycle. So if you are following a healthy sleep cycle, we should all be in bed by 10 o'clock each night. And the hours of physical repair in the body are 10:30 till 2 a.m. The hours of mental cognitive repair are 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. And the highest releases of cortisol, which is when we get our energy, should be 6 a.m. till 12 midday. However, we're all stuck in this rat race. We may be watching TV, eating too late at night, be stimulated, be tired and wired, perhaps working shifts. I have many clients who come to me who are office work, hospital workers, taxi drivers, factory workers, postal workers. So when you're not in your fully connected, or when you're not living according to your life's homeostasis, your sleep pattern will be disrupted. So I know that when I wake up early, I'm following everything in my life, which is the nutrition, the sleep, the mindset, the breathing, the movement, and having adequate water. When I can't get out of the bed and I'm tired and wired at night and I have to Velcro myself off the bed, it means I'm doing something wrong, or something is disrupting my sleep pattern.
And I'll tell you something. I also noticed that at some point or other, I'm able to make a connection for something that is of interest, in basically a nonsensical existence, where you're being bombarded with absolute utter nonsense and just smothered by it. But I will come up with something and I'll be like, well, I don't know if that's so great for the world to accept, but
Yes.
it makes outrageous sense to me. You know what I mean? Like utilizing the art form of jazz to help outstanding causes, or addressing conflicting people and showing them common ground, and doing things, and it just makes perfect sense. I don't know why it doesn't seem to make sense out there, but getting to that point, I've also noticed that, because fulfilling little things I wanted to fulfill. At one time I was like, well, I have to fulfill a dream. I had to be a ski bum. So
Yes.
I went out to the mountains, and it was a job. And I fulfilled each, the days, 5-day work weeks of being a ski bum, what you have to do. And I would notice that I had an incredible endorphin high that it would be really hard to screw up the rest of the day. So then I noticed that I might as well do that if I'm not skiing. I might as well go and swim a mile in the morning or just do something like that. So in other words, I kind of know what to do, but society's always sending me goofy messages like they're trying to get me off my game. What I believe in my heart is the most fulfilling. Do you have to deal with people like that sometimes who get off their game or whatever, or they get off the track of what?
Very, very true, Rick. So you mentioned jazz and the heart. So one of the beautiful things about jazz, and I went to watch a jazz improvisation on Saturday. So jazz is very good because it's not like when I say a regular beat. In Indian music, we have odd beats of music. So it may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Da, 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 da. So
Right.
what I noticed about the jazz improvisation, it's completely freestyle. So it's like a form of meditation. So when you go into a form of meditation, that may be movement, it may be singing, it may be chanting, it may be this jazz improvisation. You're able to come from a place more of the heart center, because the heart and brain are then connecting in rhythm. Now, we want to be in our heart and we want to come from a place of love, Rick, as you started, but most of us are going with our heads. So you mentioned before, everything in the world is all turmoil, death, disease, war, poverty, violence. They're all a product of leading with the head. But when you lead with the heart, you have endless opportunities. And the way you lead with the heart is to discover more right brain things, which is like jazz. It can be DJing, it can be chanting, it can be art like behind me. There are many ways for different people. So as you've said, there is no right or wrong. It's what works for you. And having a mutual ground can actually connect people. So we may be on the other sides of the world, we may be opposite religions, but things like jazz can bring people together and finding true love for the self. You cannot love another till you love yourself. So when you want to heal the world, you start by healing yourself, and then the ripple effect spreads out.
You know, I'm going to confide in you. I don't tell everybody this, but being that you have this, listen, I've never been to the North India and I want to go. Maybe somehow we can talk this over, but to get me to, because I love to help outstanding causes all over the world. But this was in the south of India and it was in Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
Okay. And you fly into Chennai.
Yes.
And I was helping these people and they had me now with them. It was an amazing experience. And I was working with the people and all this stuff. It was incredible, all the stuff we were doing. But they had a giant sign. And the sign said that I was there for basically world climate awareness, something like that. That's what they said. Do you know what I mean? And I said, no one spoke. I mean, there was only one guy who spoke English and a 9-year-old child. Yes. And that guy was the brother of the guy I was assisting. So nobody spoke English unless this guy happened to show up when he wasn't there all the time. And then they had to go find a 9-year-old kid in the village somewhere and bring him back because he spoke English. I don't know how. But they told me, they said, you're here helping the Dalits. Yes. But we can't say it. Yeah. We can't say you're doing that because they'll get mad. They'll get mad because they don't, because that's working for them. For the government, it works that they're born into that, right? They're born into the caste system.
Yes.
So they're just born right into cleaning the sewers. You don't have to find somebody to do a job he doesn't want to do. They're born into it. But I was helping the Dalits down there, and it was an amazing experience. And I'll tell you, the food is phenomenal in South India. Phenomenal food. And then when I went to Nepal, the Nepalese were all influenced by the South Indian food. I said, are you sure this is from Nepal? They said, no, we get it. It's South India. Yes. They're just so into the South Indian food.
But it's very true what you said, Rick. The belief system is everything. So we are taught by government, schooling, and religions that we are not worthy. We can't be warriors. But if we all rise up and we all become leaders, we can't be knocked down. And this is the problem, because schooling, religion, and governments puts people into systems because they teach you what to think instead of how to think, and they don't encourage critical thinking. So when I'm talking to different people, they never think they'll worthy. They don't think they can earn money. They think this is where they should be. They think will always be riddled with disease. They think everything happens to them instead of for them. So it's really re-educating, getting people to go out, listen to more podcasts, find information online, listen to YouTube, read more books so we can change our circumstances, because your genes load the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. So it's correct. If you're born and everybody in your family cleans the sewers, guess what? You're going to clean the sewers. But until you break away and get to another village or get to the city and develop some sort of entrepreneurial skill in order to earn money to change your background, nothing will change. And it is extremely difficult for many people.
And it's funny because it doesn't matter where you are in society, if you open that chakra or channel or whatever you want to call it, but if you open your imagination and your mind, you can all of a sudden live in an empowered and enlightened world existence. You can live in it, and I could see that this man was bringing the deletes like into, you know what I mean? Because what matters is that you have enlightenment no matter where you are, if you have it. Because if you don't have it, it's like you're brainwashed, and your brainwashing is brainwashing other people. Because I would literally come back from these amazing experiences and I'd be like, this is so crazy. And I couldn't really get through to the people that they were the exact same as they were. And then after a while, like, they even made me forget that all the things I did. And then a podcaster would have to remind me, oh, you were in Lahore, Pakistan. You did this. You went to blah, blah, blah. You were in, Rwanda. You lived. And I was like, yes, matter of fact, I did do all those things. But as soon as I go out into that world, I see everybody bombarded with these, like you said, these messages that bring you down, and they're pulled down into like a vortex.
Yeah, it is very difficult. So if you speak to any psychiatrist, Rick, a psychiatrist will tell you we're on the development level where we are. So even though we've got adults and we might have lots of degrees, lots of qualifications, most of us resonate at the age of 12. So we actually have lots of academic qualifications, but we're still resonating as the child archetype. And this comes from Carl Jung. So the idea is to climb up the chakra system, but we all resonate, including me. We stay down in fear, security, and survival, and that's the root chakra. And the whole thing is to climb up the chakras so we can reach enlightenment. Now, everybody's waiting for somebody to enlightenment, for somebody to do the work, for somebody to save us. But the truth is, Rick, we are already enlightened. As Belinda Carlisle said, heaven is a place on earth. We're already in heaven, but we're not reaching our potential because the food that we are eating dumbs us down. That's well known around the world. If you want a weak and sick society, you dumb them down with commercial food, ultra-processed food, so they don't have the strength. Number 2, faulty breathing patterns. So most of us have a reverse breath pattern. So we're not breathing properly. We're not energized. Number 3 is the water. The water is so contaminated and we're not drinking enough of it. Number 4 is movement. We need to move. And I love your analogy of Tai Chi. So things like Tai Chi constantly keep every cell and every nadi, as it's known in yoga, connected. It keeps the flow of the body, so there's no stagnation. And number 5 would be sleep. And number 6 would be mindset. So you really have to fight to get out of the mindset of other people. Because remember, we adapt to the peer group. We adapt to the 5 people we mix with or listen to the most.
Wow. And that's the crazy thing. On the one hand, we want to fit in because we want that camaraderie. We want that safety net. We want that safety zone. We want all those things. Yet, it's a double-edged sword, because once we do fit in, now we are almost being indoctrinated by those around us. And then, of course, those little groups often have a leader, who's semi-diabolical or whatever, or it could happen. And now you're, like you said, that person, you're being influenced constantly from, the leader of your little group that you maybe worked kind of hard to fit in because you thought that would be a good idea.
Well, the
So
whole idea in life, Rick, is what you do in private shows in public. And I feel so energized and a lot healthier than I was years ago. And I feel that I can deal with any problem that comes on me in life. I want other people to feel this way. So we have to start with us. So when we walk, we should all walk with what's called a green light posture, head up, chest forwards. Our heart is open with love to the world. We should lead by example. So we're all energized. We're all lifting each other. We're not pulling each other down with gossip. If you look at any media channel, it's all full of gossip, criticism, keeping people in the low soap operas. So remember, television, tell a story, programming, somebody else's programming. So, we can make our own story. Television, we can program ourselves. We don't need anybody else. We have the power. But if we're not healthy, we don't question, we become lazy, we stay at age 12, and that's the parent-child relationship, which is called transactional analysis, where we're always waiting for somebody else to heal us, to fix us, to make decisions for us. But we are responsible for our health. And remember, in years to come, the government won't save us and the medical system won't save us. So we have to take charge of our bodies.
absolutely. And I think people somehow get lulled into this crazy deal where they feel like somebody's going to save them. There's always a big brother. They want that comfort, but at the end of the day, that entity will see that as a weakness ultimately, and they'll siphon everything out of you. And there's stories in history. I know there was this one where there was a plague or something, and the government made a huge mistake. They thought it was cats that were causing the plague. They killed all the cats. I think this is in the UK. I think this is you know it, right? It's London or something. They killed all the cats, but it was the rats.
And the cats are the very creatures that kill the rats.
So they made the biggest mistake you could possibly make. The people that you're trusting to make the right decision couldn't have made a worse decision than that, because they're the only ones that are going to kill the rats. And now it's even worse. And I heard at the end, they just disappeared. They just left because they're like, we're out of here. We're going to save ourselves. Your responsibility is secondary. We tried. We made mistake. We tried by killing all the cats. I mean, it's just crazy. Right now, Nisha, and I don't want to take too much time away from you because the focus needs to be on you, but right now I'm in such a crazy situation because Jazz Rippies had a vote, and 96% of the people everyone was allowed to look at a document, because we brought Israelis, Palestinian musicians together with Americans at the United Nations, and we've been working with Israelis and Palestinians together for 23 years, and we put something together, and we allowed people to frequently ask questions. They asked all their questions. We answered all their questions. We had a document they could click on, and we said, listen, vote. You can choose what we have. You can choose the way it is now, or you can choose the escalation, which we've had since an escalation. No, is zero. No one chose what is happening. Not even one person chose that. Only 4% chose to keep things the way they are. And those could be those people who are like, we got to kill them or they're going to kill us. If we don't annihilate them, they're going to annihilate on both sides. 96% chose the Jazz Rippies. So you would think if you had a 96, that somebody in charge of this war on both sides would say, wait a minute, let me take a look at that. Let me take a look at your proposal. Do you know what I mean? And we're just in dystopia. I don't hear, should I check my phone to see if one of them's calling me? No, they're not calling. Do you know what I mean? And this thing could be ended.
Yes.
So it's dystopian. Are we in dystopia or what's going on here? Have we always been? That's what I'm wondering. Has it always been that way maybe?
Well, psychiatrist Carl Jung talks about our shadow side. So
Right.
we all have a shadow, and we have good and not so good aspects of the shadow. So the governments always reflect the shadow of the people. So it tells us how we have lost our track as a society, because society is meant to survive with tribe, community, with love, with helping each other, with really, building the community. So everything that's going on is a reflection of our shadow. So again, if we want others to change, we have to, start with ourselves. And it's right, Rick, you have to step up. You can't sit waiting for somebody else to make change. From my experience, all great people who have seen make change around the world, like Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, people like that, they have received so much criticism, so much negativity, really hurtful, painful things. But you have to be so strong that you fight the norm in order to rise up. And remember, a strong body is a strong mind. So you've got to look after yourself, because when you change something, guess what? Other people will follow. So sometimes you've got to lead, and being a leader can be very peaceful, and not fitting in with society can be very, very, disheartening as well. It can be a lonely life. But if we want others to change, we have to start with ourselves. And you're right, if we want to heal the world, we've got to take action. We vote with where we spend our money. We can change everything now, but we have to get together as tribe and community.
Well, you brought up the most important point of all, which is why I'm so glad I said what I said. And that is, we as a species, as common people, have degenerated. We're a bunch of degenerates. We have lowered our frequency. We've lowered our chi, our aura. We've lowered it. And whether society played into it or not, the bottom line is we didn't fight it hard enough, because we are at such a low level to stare at a 96% vote and not say, hey, why are you even still fighting? Did you see that 96% of us have asked you to look at this proposal? 96, and people just sit there. So it is a reflection of our lowered society. And the reason that I was able to come out of the pack and say, I don't see anybody doing this, so I'm going to do it, because no one's going to do it if I don't do it, is because I'm in front of a piano now, and I'm going to play it in a couple seconds. I was able to do something that was connected to all of these great things, whether it was Tai Chi or Reiki or all these things that you've studied. I was able to connect through all those, through the arts and culture and music and playing, and I was able to lift myself up. And I would go out after lifting myself up at the piano, and I'd be like, wow, why is everybody so, everyone's like, woo, down here. But I was like, well, no biggie. I'll just lift myself up, and I just kept lifting. And when I lift myself up, I see solutions. And yes. I think the world's got to get with this program, lifting. Everyone's got to lift themselves up and follow the things that you're teaching. I mean, you're one of the people that is getting the word out to people and saying, you've got to raise your game. You've got to raise your spiritual game, your psychological game, your philosophical game. I was, and I don't want to talk too much again, but every time I do, you say something great. So I'm not even worried about it. But I had someone contact me and say, what are the 5 things that make you happy? And I said, first of all, I didn't know I was happy, but if you want me to do it, I said, something like, find a blank that works for you. I just put 5 times, and I put 5 things in there. The first one I put was a philosophy, and I didn't know to do that. You know how sometimes you learn from the exercise. So when you bring up Jung, I know what you're talking about, because there's a whole bunch of those guys, and they say phenomenal things. There's so much you can learn from a Marcus Aurelius or a Carl Jung or a this one or that one. And it's just incredible. Did you want to say something before I play? Go ahead.
Yes, you talked about vibration and frequency. So in my studios, I have a vibrancy and frequency chart, and all emotions resonate and feelings at a different vibrational level. So things like anger, sadness, grief, blame, shame are all the low level resonance. Once we get high, the level of vibrational frequency increases. So my mother passed away about 5 months ago. And when she was dying, she had 10 days at the end of life. She'd had a brain hemorrhage. One thing I did in the hospital was the opposite of what anybody else did. So I found what the vibration or the frequency should be of the brain. And I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I found a piece of sound, and it would be very much like jazz instrumental, and I played it above her head for about 15 minutes every day. Now, I didn't expect her to live, but what I was expecting to do is alter the frequency and the vibration of her. So everything is a vibration and frequency. And we know when we enter a room that Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology, he talked about, energy. When we walk into a room, if somebody's at a 10 and you're at a 5, if you've got high energy, you'll go up to them. But if the person at the 10 isn't as good vibration, or they're a bit weak, they'll come down to you. So it's having the power to stay up there. And you're quite right, Rick, after doing all that music and vibration, you've got all the nadis going, you've got all the chakras connected, you're ready to seize the world. So when you go out into the world, you are, I am here, but everybody else's posture is closed down.
Right. Now, who was that guy you said who invented Scientology? What was his name?
Ron Hubbard.
Yes, Ron Hubbard. And, some great people were involved with Scientology, great musicians. Chick Corea was one of them. Yeah. But, and then, I don't know, did he pass away? And now then you have some, you get these people, they interpret it so badly, right? Because you've had some real screw ups in there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But that's with everything, right? That's with everything. You can screw up anything, right?
Yes. There's no positives without negatives, and there's no black or white. So I do a coin trick with the clients. So if I say to you now, here's a dime, flip it heads or tails. There is not just a heads or tails. There's a bit round the edge. So there's always a gray area. So it's learning not to look at things black or white, not one thing in one dimensional, because we don't want a polarized view. A polarized view is too much left brain. We don't want too much right brain. We want a combination of both.
Now, just out of curiosity, because I've heard these people who cross over for a couple of minutes to the other, and they report these amazing, like they're so happy. Some of them are like, well, they didn't want to come back here or something. I don't know. They're like, it was unbelievable. I was like, and do you know anything about that? Have you ever talked to anybody? Anything?
Yes, I have. So people who are really highly evolved will do things like astral traveling through the meditation. They can walk as well and go and see other places. They have a great intuition. And this isn't all hocus pocus, Rick. There's a lot of evidence with this, a lot of scientific papers. So I know there's a competition which was taking place in London every year before lockdown, and it was using intuition. So it was like a dowsing. And I've learned food dowsing and how to douse people's reports and their questionnaires, but I haven't learned how to douse maps. So, douse for water. So this competition, somebody did it in America, and they actually had to find submarines on a map, and they went through on a map and showed where these submarines were, and they were actually considered a danger because their intuition was so awake. So, we all have ways of accessing our third power. We all have a superpower. It's just many of us will never reach it. So it's that third eye. So yes, I know a lot of people who are more highly, a lot highly evolved. I'm nowhere near that level. I train with a guy called Paul Check, who is phenomenal, who is from the West Coast, and he does a lot of astral travel and very evolved that way.
But these people you're talking about are doing it without dying. But I was hearing about people who, actually die and somehow are brought back. I mean, they're trying to bring them up, and they're like, oh, we lost him. And then the guy somehow wakes up, and they also see incredible things, have incredible stories to tell, right?
Yes, I've listened to many surgeons' stories, especially heart surgeons, which have told stories where they've been in the theatre and they've really experienced that patient going out of body and what they felt. And I also have a client who's had a quadruple bypass. So the heart is one of the most sensitive organs in the body, and that's where we get the sayings from. died of a broken heart. You're pulling on my heartstrings. So we cannot separate emotion and the body. The emotion takes place and will ingrain it in our body. What we want to do is not let it get ingrained, but work with the emotion, find freedom. Freedom in life, freedom in movement, freedom in expression, freedom in music, so we can translate and, process these emotions so they don't get trapped as dis-ease, depression, divorce, disconnection.
One time I had so many people let me down that I had like 10 broken hearts. You know what I mean? And someone else came along and broke my heart again. And I was like, I can't fit that broken heart into the bits full. This broke, there's only like the broken heart, the broken heart barrel is completely full. I can't even get heartbroken over this. And that's when I realized that actually, unless we have to play a role in our own broken hearts. I mean, a heartbreak can be a positive thing depending on how you do it, but also you don't have to get heartbroken over everything, because if you don't play a role in it, you can't even get your heart broken. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, this person had legitimately broke my heart, but I had no more room in my heartbreak, and that's when I was realized, geez, I'm so sorry. I can't fit you. I can't fit the broken heart that you broke, because it's just, so it's just these fascinating things about how we have to play. Sometimes we have to play a role in our own ridiculous situation.
We do, Rick, and there's a lovely book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. So everybody who comes to me, I tell them not only to read the book, and if they don't read the book, is to look at any trauma, any situation that hasn't worked for them in their life, and it can be really bad or whatever it is, and then you write down 20 things that you've learned from it, 20 things that you can think positively of it, 20 things how it's made you grow. So you're looking at that situation, whether it's divorce, whether it's bankruptcy, whether it's bereavement, no matter what it is, what can you take away from that situation? And it's not so quick as what I've said, but I've just summed it up in a short detail. So that book is called Loving What Is by Byron Katie.
Okay, Loving What Is. Byron Katie, how do you spell his last name?
Byron Katie, Byronkaty, a lady, Byron Katie.
Because, there's an old philosopher, there's some ancient parable, 2,000 years old or something. It's called The Old Man and His Horse. And this is also fascinating perspective, because, when you try to do the right thing, you often get the wrong result, because you're trying to do the right thing in a backwards, messed up world where the wrong people are, stabbing themselves in the heart to do the wrong thing to get to advance. Mm-hmm. And this one is like, the guy comes, actually, it was one of my podcast guests I actually learned it from. The guy, he's got a horse. He's an old man. He's got a horse. The horse takes off on him one day. Just takes off. Looks real sad. The neighbor comes over and says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, you're old and on. You lost your horse." The guy looked at him and said, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" He said, "Well, okay, that's a nice outlook. I'll leave you with that." He goes back. 3 days later, 5 days later, whatever, horse comes back with 5 other horses. So now he's got 6 horses. So now the neighbor comes over jumping for joy. He was sad the last time. Now he's happy. Hey, what a beautiful thing. Congratulations. Now you got all these horses. You got them in the stable. And he says to him, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?"
Yes, that's beautiful.
You're right. So now his son goes out, gets on one of the horses, maybe trying to break it in or ride it or whatever. Horse bucks him off, throws him off, breaks his leg. Disaster, right? Neighbor comes over. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The guy looks at him and says, "Who knows what is good and what is bad?" And he said, the guy's like, "Oh my God, this guy's crazy. It's the worst news in the world. I don't know how he's going to get out. I don't know how he's going to, A week goes by, the government knocks on his door. "The war has started. We need every able-bodied young boy." "I'm sorry, sir, we can't take your son. His leg is mangled. We don't even know if he's ever going to walk." Everybody else in the town dies, all the other kids, and this guy is saved by the worst news. You know what I mean? So that's another one. Like, so we can it's up to us if we want to go wacky and crazy over something that happened, but sometimes that's good news. So what are we doing getting all whacked out over good news, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if that old man had, torn himself to pieces over the son's broken leg, that would have been a big waste of time, right? Finding out that he was able not to go to war. Best thing ever.
Yes.
So that's perspective. All right, so we're going to play something now. What I'm going to do, we have a TikTok person at Jazz Rupees. I don't know how long we have volunteers. I never know how long they'll last at what. Right now we have a TikTok person, and they wanted me to get a Elvis Presley song, and they're going to make a little TikTok. But I did it. I left this on and I forgot to turn this. So now I'm going to turn it so that it's just me. Because if they, the TikTok and 2 people, I don't know if they'd be able to, they're so small. So I'll try it again. This will be a strange version. It'll definitely be a jazz version of Elvis Presley. I don't know what it'll be because I just don't know. I never know. And we'll just see what happens. But it's an Elvis Presley song called In the Ghetto.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Okay. We'll give it a try. As the snow flies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, a poor little baby child is born in the ghetto. And his mama cries, 'cause if there's one thing that she don't need, it's another hungry mouth to feed in the ghetto. Well, people, don't you understand? A child needs a helping hand. He'll grow to be an angry young man someday. Take a look at you and me. Are we too blind to see? Do we simply turn our heads and walk the other way? Well, the world turns, and a hungry little boy with a running nose plays in the streets as the cold wind blows in the ghetto. And his hunger burns. So he starts to roam the streets at night, and he learns how to steal, and he learns how to fight in the ghetto. Then one night in desperation, the young man breaks away. He buys a gun, steals a car, tries to run, but he don't get far. And his mama cries as a crowd gathers round an angry young man face down in the street with a gun in his hand in the ghetto. And as a young man dies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, another little baby child is born in the ghetto. His mama cries as the crowd gathers round an angry young man face down in the streets with a gun in his hand in the ghetto. And as her young man dies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, another little baby child is born in the ghetto.
Wow, that was beautiful. Really something else. Really beautiful talent, Rick. And imagine how many people have got a super talent and it's just lying undiscovered.
Well, you're right. And, you know, I was talking to someone yesterday because a lot of people I talk to are enlightened, healing people that, you know, contact this show. They really are. There's amazing people. And, you know, we all agree we are not reaching our potential. Yeah. And there isn't a one of us that doesn't have something every bit as special as anybody else. Not a one. So we've got to tap into, you know, somehow work with people to tap into that special soul, because if they are dialed in and they can tap into how unique and special they are, maybe they can be a part of, you know, the healing process. I mean, we obviously, as we've uncovered in this show, we have a depressed kind of populace, and it's a reflection of them. We're actually bringing them down. Whether they're trying to bring us down, it doesn't matter, because we're bringing them down. It's almost a poetic justice, you know. They're performing horribly because we are not holding them to any standard whatsoever. We're just letting them do stuff. Yeah, that looks crazy, but I don't know, you know, and we're just, you know. So all of us have to, you know, step it up a whole lot of notches.
We
But
do.
just so you know, whatever I did today, it has a lot to do with you.
Oh,
And I'll tell you something. No, you're not going to hear whatever I did. I don't know until I listen back. I'm telling you, you're not going to hear it nowhere else. I wouldn't know how to play it. I wouldn't know what it was.
yes.
And that thing, you're going to have to take a little credit because I'm drawing on your energy, our discussion, our thing. So I'm drawing that somehow it's in the air. Whatever was in the air, that's what happened.
That's beautiful. And that's the way life should be. We should go with the flow, intuitive, reflection rather than reaction.
Yes, yes. And so with that, folks, I would really just want to give a special thanks to Nisha Srivastava. And where can people find out about you, learn more, all that stuff? Is he has a website?
I'm very easy to find, Rick. So my reputation is in the Pilates community. So if you just Google Nisha Pilates or Yoga Anatomy or Pilates Manchester, I have an amazing ebook, which is called Transformation with Nisha, which is free, which is all about diet, movement, and lifestyle. I also have so many articles that I've written, over 500 blogs on mindset, diet, lifestyle, and movement, back problems, chronic pain, healing. So much free stuff on YouTube. I'm not hard to find. You can just type my name in and I will come up.
That is fantastic. I mean, Nisha Pilates and Get to You. That's just fantastic. I just want to thank everybody, all of you, for being a part of this. And again, special thanks to Nisha. And stick with the Jazz for Peace podcast, folks, where the final solution is love.